It's usually right around 8 p.m. when it really hits.
Oh, yeah. Clockwork.
Right. You finally sit down on the couch after just a completely long day, and there's this very specific, very heavy kind of exhaustion that just sort of settles into your bones.
Absolutely. It's not that good tired either.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not I just ran a marathon, kind of
Uh-uh.
tired. It's that really deep, heavy, just sort of brain fog fatigue.
Yeah, the kind where you just stare at the wall.
Yes.
Mm.
And if you're like most of us, you probably look back at your day and try to calculate the math of your exhaustion.
The exhaustion math. We all do it.
Right. You think, well, okay, I worked for 8 hours. I ran 3 errands. I made dinner. I helped with homework. So, yeah, that equals tired. The math checks out.
It seems perfectly logical on paper.
It does. But, what if the math is completely wrong?
That's the big question.
Yeah, like what if the exhaustion you feel at the end of the day has, almost nothing to do with what you actually did physically?
Right, which is wild to think about.
It is. What if it's entirely to do with how your brain was just constantly, relentlessly categorizing every single moment of your day as either a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, it's a profound shift in perspective when you really start looking at energy this way.
It really is.
Because, we're so conditioned to measure our energy expenditure purely in terms of physical action or like direct intellectual output.
Like writing a massive report or carrying heavy groceries.
Exactly. We calculate calories burned. But we completely ignore the sheer caloric and, frankly, emotional energy required to constantly judge our reality.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just think about it. To label every email, every interaction at the grocery store, every single traffic light as a victory or a defeat that requires staggering amounts of cognitive processing.
I never thought about it like that. It's like a background app draining your battery.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a massive hidden drain on our psychological battery that operates entirely in the background. You don't even know it's running.
And, when you frame it as this hidden metabolic drain, it completely reframes the guilt so many of us feel.
Oh, totally. The guilt of being tired when you haven't, quote unquote, done anything.
Right, when you haven't done anything physically exhausting. And that hidden drain is exactly what we are targeting today in this deep dive.
It's such a crucial topic.
It really is. Because, you're listening right now because you want to get straight to the profound insights, the actual tools that change the architecture of your day.
Without drowning in a million disconnected facts.
Exactly. So we are taking a really fascinating set of sources today. We're looking at a daily reading featuring 2 specific verses from a profoundly influential ancient text.
The Bhagavadgita?
Yes, specifically the teachings of Krishna, looking at shlokas 5.19 and 5.20.
Such powerful verses.
They really are. And we're pairing those ancient verses with some just brilliant modern commentary that translates these 2,000-year-old concepts into really highly practical daily guidance.
Which is so necessary. It bridges that gap.
Right, because we are going to explore this concept of equanimity. And, equanimity sounds like this very serene, passive, almost delicate word, doesn't it?
It sounds like sitting quietly on a mountain.
Yeah. But as we unpack this, we're going to discover that it might actually be the most aggressive, fiercely effective antidote to modern fatigue that exists.
I love that framing. Aggressive equanimity.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really grasp the gravity of this, we have to look at the fundamental flaw in how we construct our daily reality.
Okay, the fundamental flaw, what is it?
It's that from the moment we wake up, we approach life as if we're on a battlefield where the ultimate objective is to basically arrange all the external pieces perfectly.
Oh, yeah. I definitely do that.
We all do. We operate under this unconscious assumption that if we just, get the right job or live in the exact right neighborhood.
Or, let's be honest, if we somehow manage to fix all the annoying habits of the people around us.
Exactly. If we fix them, then we will finally be at peace.
Like peace is a prize at the end of a very stressful scavenger hunt.
Right. We treat peace as a destination we arrive at once we have finally wrestled the world into submission.
Which never actually happens.
Never. And these ancient teachings begin by completely dismantling that entire strategy.
And they dismantle it by, completely redefining what victory actually means, right?
It's the core of it, yes.
Because our modern definition of a successful day is entirely external. Think about it. A good day is when traffic was miraculously light.
Or your boss praised your presentation.
Right. Or your partner was in a stellar mood and your favorite coffee shop didn't run out of oat milk.
Your victory is 100% dependent on 1,000 external variables.
Aligning perfectly with your personal preferences. It's ridiculous when you say it out loud.
It really is. And the ancient text flips this entirely upside down.
Yeah, the translation we have for the first verse, 5.19, it says, even here, in this very life, the cycle of birth and death is conquered by those whose minds are established in equanimity.
That phrase is just incredible.
It continues, the Supreme is flawless and impartial. Therefore, those who maintain this steady equality of mind are already situated in the Supreme.
So much to unpack there.
Right out of the gate, we're hit with this idea of conquering existence, even here, in this very life.
And you know what's fascinating here is the immediacy of that promise. That's what makes this text so revolutionary.
Revolutionary how? Because of the historical context.
Exactly. If you look at the broader landscape of ancient Indian philosophy, you often find this vast, almost incomprehensible timescale.
Like multiple lifetimes.
Right, dealing with reincarnation and the idea of slowly, just painstakingly working out your karmic debt over absolute eons.
Right, so enlightenment is always a million miles away.
Exactly. But this specific philosophical thread sharply interrupts that massive timescale. It says, even here, in this very life.
It brings it right into your living room.
It does. It's incredibly empowering because it asserts that ultimate victory, and the Sanskrit phrase used is Gita Sargo.
Gita Sargo, meaning what exactly?
It basically means conquering the creation or the material existence. It's saying this victory is not some post-mortem reward for good behavior.
It's available right now.
Yes, it's a psychological state that is available to you right now, literally this afternoon.
But see, the mechanism for achieving that state of Jita Sargo is the part that completely short-circuits our modern conditioning.
Because it's not about changing the world.
Right. It says you achieve this not by changing the world to fit your desires, but by establishing the mind in equanimity, by becoming impartial.
Becoming impartial. That's the hard part.
It really is. And honestly, the phrase flawless and impartial feels a bit, I don't know, cold. I have to push back a little here on behalf of human nature.
And please do. It's a natural reaction.
Well, our sources note how tempted we are to manage our external circumstances, especially the people around us, right?
Oh, constantly.
We do it to feel safe. It feels like a deeply ingrained evolutionary survival mechanism.
It absolutely is.
So why is the illusion of fixing others or, arranging the world so much more compelling to us than just managing our own internal state?
It's compelling because, on the surface, manipulating the external world feels like a tangible, measurable project.
Like checking boxes on a to-do list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives us an illusion of agency. If my partner would just learn to communicate the way I want.
Or if my colleague would just use the filing system I prefer.
Right. Then my environment would be frictionless and therefore I would be calm.
We project the whole problem onto them.
We project the entire source of our internal agitation onto external actors. It's an incredibly convenient way of outsourcing our discomfort.
Oh, totally. Because if the problem is them, I don't have to do the hard work of looking at myself.
Precisely. That's the comfort of the illusion.
But it is an illusion.
A massive one. The trap we fall into lies in the fact that we have zero actual, absolute control over another sovereign human being.
Let alone the weather, or the economy, or the traffic.
Exactly. When we try to enforce our personal preferences onto the world, we are fighting against the fundamental nature of reality itself.
Which is what?
Reality is constantly shifting. It's deeply complex and inherently outside our jurisdiction. The verse uses a very deliberate description of the ultimate reality.
Right, referring to it as the Supreme or Brahman.
Yes, and it defines Brahman as flawless and impartial.
That impartiality is the part that really stings, though. We desperately want the universe to be partial to us.
Because we are deeply, fiercely partial creatures. We have very strong preferences about how absolutely everything should be.
From our coffee order to our career path.
Right. But reality itself, Brahman, that underlying fabric of existence, is completely impartial. Just think of the fundamental forces of nature.
Like gravity.
Exactly. Gravity doesn't care if you are falling or if an apple is falling. It exerts the exact same force.
Or the rain.
Yes. It rains on the couple trying to have a beautiful outdoor wedding, and it rains on the parched crop of a desperate farmer.
It's the exact same rain.
The rain doesn't have an agenda against your outdoor catering.
That is such a great way to put it. The rain has no agenda.
It doesn't. When we demand that reality be partial to our specific, tiny individual desires, we just guarantee our own suffering.
Because we're fighting a losing battle.
Establishing a steady equality of mind means recognizing this grand impartiality and choosing to align your internal state with it.
Instead of fighting a microscopic war against it every single second of the day.
Exactly. A microscopic, exhausting war.
And that framing fighting a microscopic war every second, that really pulls us into the biological and psychological mechanics of why we are all so exhausted by 8 p.m.
It's the core diagnosis.
Right. The commentary we're reviewing zeroes in on this. If true victory is this internal equanimity, this alignment with impartiality, then our modern lifestyle is practically a factory designed to produce the exact opposite.
Oh, a highly efficient factory at that.
Yeah. We live in an era characterized by hyperstimulation, constant change, shifting family dynamics, just a barrage of information.
Thousands of micro events every single day.
And because we're not aligned with that impartial reality, our minds act like a frantic, desperate sorting machine.
Categorizing everything.
Right. Every piece of data has to immediately go into one of two buckets, good for me or bad for me.
And what's crucial to understand is that cognitive sorting is never static. It's an endless oscillation.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Yes. The relentless swinging of the pendulum from, I love this, I must possess it, to, I hate this, I must destroy or avoid it, is the root cause of our psychological fatigue.
We're never just experiencing the world.
No, we are constantly litigating the world. We are putting reality on trial in our heads all day long.
Litigating reality. That is exactly what it feels like. I was actually trying to think of a modern analogy for this.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
It's like having 50 tabs open in your brain's internet browser, but, it's worse than just having them open.
Because they're active.
Yes. Every single tab is auto-refreshing every 2 seconds, running this complex diagnostic just to tell you if the current situation is a win or a loss.
That is a perfect analogy.
Let's just look at a normal Tuesday morning. Okay, tab 1. My alarm didn't go off on time. The brain labels this a massive loss. The day is ruined. I'm behind schedule.
Immediate stress.
Right. Then tab 2. I merge onto the highway and find an open lane. Huge win. The universe is rewarding my incredible driving skills.
A little hit of validation.
Exactly. Tab 3. My coworker sends a slightly ambiguous 2-word email. Massive loss. My career is in jeopardy. They secretly hate me.
The panic sets in.
Your brain's CPU is running at maximum capacity. Its fans are whirring, just refreshing the judgment on these incredibly mundane tabs. It's no wonder the battery drains so fast.
The browser tab analogy is remarkably accurate, especially when you look at how the brain actually processes these events on a neurobiological level.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, we tend to separate philosophy from biology, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they are intrinsically linked here.
Okay, lay it on me.
Every time your brain's sorting machine categorizes something as a threat, a loss, in your analogy, you are not just having a fleeting thought.
What's happening?
You are triggering a very real biological stress response.
Wait, really? So my body doesn't know the difference between an ambiguous email and a physical threat?
Exactly. The amygdala, which is the primitive threat detection center of your brain, processes that ambiguous email and sounds a massive alarm.
Over a 2-word email.
Yes, it tells your adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate subtly increases. Your blood pressure shifts.
You're literally preparing for combat.
You are physiologically preparing to fight or flee. And conversely, every time you categorize something as a win, like getting that open lane or seeing a notification on your phone, you get a tiny rapid hit of dopamine.
So we're just bouncing between these chemicals all day.
Throughout your entire day, your physiology is violently bouncing up and down, chemically mirroring your psychological judgments.
That sounds exhausting.
This hormonal roller coaster is incredibly taxing on the central nervous system.
It's metabolic burnout.
Precisely. The state of equanimity, which the Sanskrit text calls samya, is the ultimate antidote.
Because it stops the roller coaster.
Yes, because it is the deliberate act of closing all those judgment tabs. It's the conscious decision to observe the data of your life without initiating that immediate physiological cascade.
Okay, this is where the philosophy has to really hit the pavement for me. Because identifying the problem is great, but how do we actually close the tabs?
That's the practical application.
Right. And the commentary provided in our sources doesn't just leave this at the conceptual level. It gives us very specific tactical guidance for daily life.
To help us stop this exhausting pendulum.
Exactly. So the first major piece of guidance is to observe without immediate judgment.
Which is easier said than done.
Definitely. And the sources give deeply relatable examples. A delayed travel plan, a technological glitch, a disagreement.
Everyday frustrations.
Yeah. It suggests we need to pause and practice seeing the event purely as a neutral data point without immediately throwing into the disaster bucket.
Which, given our neurobiology that we just talked about, is a monumental task.
Let's take the airport example.
Okay, perfect. If you are standing at the departure gate and the screen flashes that your flight is delayed by 4 hours,
The worst feeling.
the immediate, instinctual, amygdala-driven reaction is, this is an absolute disaster. My entire trip is ruined. The airline has ruined my life.
You take it so personally.
But if we apply the principle of equanimity, we have to look at the objective, impartial reality.
Right. What has actually happened in the physical universe?
In the physical universe, a metal tube with wings is going to take off at 6 p.m. instead of 2 p.m.
That's it.
That is the entirely neutral, impartial, and frankly boring fact. It's your mind that adds the dramatic narrative of disaster.
The narrative is the exhausting part.
The guidance here is to surgically strip away your dramatic narrative and just sit with the neutral fact.
Now, this doesn't mean you have to paste a fake smile on your face, right? Like pretending you are thrilled about spending 4 extra hours in an airport terminal.
No, not at all. Equanimity isn't toxic positivity. It simply means you stop insisting that reality has committed a targeted crime against you.
You stop litigating the airline in the courtroom of your mind. You just drop the case.
You drop the case and look at the energy you immediately conserve.
By not having that mental argument.
By accepting the impartial reality of the 6 p.m. departure, you bypass the cortisol spike entirely. Your heart rate stays steady.
And from that place of neurological calm, you can actually ask a productive question.
Exactly. Okay, what now? Do I read a book? Do I get some food? Rather than screaming internally, why is this happening to me?
Which changes the whole afternoon. This actually transitions us perfectly into the second piece of guidance in the source material.
Yes, applying this to people.
Right, moving from inanimate events like flight delays to people. And I'll be honest, this is the part of the text that challenged me the most.
It's definitely challenging.
The guidance says we need to level the playing field. It instructs us that whether we are speaking with a close family member or a completely anonymous passing stranger, we should strive to interact with the same underlying baseline of respect and steady presence.
Recognizing the same spirit in both.
Yeah. Now, when I read this, I immediately thought about the brutal reality of our social dynamics.
It's a stark contrast.
It is almost universally true that it's much easier to be flawlessly polite and patient with, like, a barista who messes up your coffee order than it is to be kind to your spouse or your sibling when you're having a disagreement about, say, unloading the dishwasher.
It's so true. We give our best selves to strangers.
We really do. We give our most emotionally regulated selves to strangers at the grocery store, and we give our shortest fuses, our most reactive, snappy behavior to the people we supposedly love the most.
It's a paradox of intimacy.
So when the text says to level the playing field, here's where it gets really interesting. It brings up a thorny question for you listening. Are we supposed to start treating our spouse with the cold distance of a stranger, or are we supposed to start treating strangers with the intense intimacy of a spouse?
That is a phenomenal question. And it highlights the most common and frankly most damaging misinterpretation of equanimity.
Which is?
When people first encounter this philosophy, they fear that equanimity is synonymous with emotional detachment.
Right, turning into a robot.
Exactly. They hear level the playing field and assume it means becoming a flatlined, indifferent robot. They think it means lowering the intensity of love and affection for their family to match their generalized apathy for a stranger.
That sounds awful.
It does, but that is reading the text entirely backwards.
Okay, clarify that for me.
The source explicitly says to interact with the same underlying baseline of respect and steady presence, recognizing the same spirit in both. Notice the words respect and presence.
Okay, respect and presence.
It's about elevating your lowest behavior, not degrading your highest connections.
Elevating the baseline. Okay, I need to see how this works in practice. Walk me through the dishwasher argument.
Let's do it.
Let's role play this internal dynamic. I'm in the kitchen. I'm loading bowls on the top rack. My partner walks in, sighs heavily, and says, "You know those don't get clean on the top rack."
A classic scenario.
My immediate instinct is to unleash 5 years of pent-up domestic resentment. How does leveling the playing field change that exact moment?
Well, let's analyze why that instinct to unleash resentment exists in the first place.
Because it's annoying.
Sure, but think about when you are dealing with a stranger, say a coworker, who points out an error in a spreadsheet.
Okay.
There are societal boundaries in place.
Yeah.
Those boundaries act as a structural buffer. You don't immediately unleash your childhood trauma or your deep insecurities on the coworker.
Right, I'd probably just say, "Oh, good catch, thanks."
You maintain a polite, professional curiosity. You pause.
Hmm.
But with family, Extreme familiarity strips away that societal buffer entirely.
Familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Familiarity breeds a kind of reactive emotional shorthand. When your partner critiques your dishwasher loading, you aren't just hearing a comment about ceramics.
No, I'm definitely not.
You are hearing every perceived criticism, every moment you felt unappreciated over the last 5 years, all compressed into a single sigh.
So because I know them so well, I skip the pause entirely and go straight to the worst-case interpretation.
Exactly. Leveling the playing field means consciously re-importing that buffer of respect into the intimate space.
Re-importing the buffer.
It means applying the same emotional regulation, the same pause, that you naturally grant a stranger to your spouse.
Wow.
In that moment of frustration in the kitchen, you choose to recognize the dignity, the same spirit in your partner, just as easily as you recognize the basic humanity of a stranger on the street.
So I'm not becoming distant.
You don't become distant or cold at all. You simply stop allowing familiarity to be an excuse for poor reactive behavior.
You elevate your baseline of respect so that your internal steadiness remains intact, regardless of who is standing in front of you.
Yes, that's the essence of it.
This is a total paradigm shift. You are essentially saying that keeping the love and intimacy of the family relationship requires importing the emotional regulation that we usually reserve for public behavior.
Yes, and by making that choice, you're actually protecting the intimacy of the relationship.
Because you're not constantly fighting.
Constant reactive judgment is incredibly corrosive. It rusts the foundation of a partnership. By maintaining equanimity, you preserve the love by refusing to let it be poisoned by daily microscopic judgments.
This exploration of emotional reactivity leads us seamlessly into the second verse from the text, shloka 5.20.
Which targets the deeper cultural conditioning.
Right, the conditioning that fuels all of this exhaustion. The translation reads, "One who neither rejoices upon obtaining what is pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining what is unpleasant, whose intellect is steady, who is unbewildered, and who knows the Supreme is established in the Supreme."
It builds right on the previous verse.
So in the first verse, we dealt with the exhaustion of cognitively categorizing things as good or bad. Now, in this verse, we are moving into the exhaustion of the actual emotional fallout.
The extreme emotional swings that follow those judgments.
Exactly. And the commentary provides a devastatingly accurate diagnosis of our modern psychological condition here.
It points out that modern culture isn't just, incidentally exhausting.
No, it's designed that way.
It is fundamentally designed around the cultivation of emotional spikes.
Yeah.
We are quite literally conditioned from a very young age to chase extreme highs.
We absolutely are. The entire architecture of modern consumerism and social media is built on this.
Everything is engineered for the spike.
It is. Everything is engineered to give you that hit. It's the thrill of clicking buy and waiting for the package to arrive.
Or the notification sound.
Right, the rush of capturing a perfectly curated photograph of your vacation, posting it, and watching the validation metrics roll in.
The likes and comments.
Or the intense year-long buildup to a massive celebratory event like a wedding or a big launch party.
Yeah.
We have essentially engineered our lives as a series of peaks that we just leap between.
And while chasing peaks feels like living fully, the commentary points out the inevitable tragic dark side of this architecture.
The crash.
Because we are so deeply addicted to the dopamine of the peaks, we have lost the resilience to handle the valleys.
We really have.
When we don't get the spike, when the package is lost, when the plans fall through, or when we face a genuine health challenge, we don't just experience proportional disappointment.
It's not just, oh, bummer.
No, we experience absolute devastation. We crash. We become, as the source so brilliantly puts it, emotional yo-yos.
Emotional yo-yos. I love that imagery, but I also kind of hate how accurate it feels.
It is the perfect visual representation.
Think about it. The string of the yo-yo is tied to the external event.
Right? The job promotion, the social media post, the canceled flight.
Yeah. And your internal emotional state is just the wooden spool being violently thrown up and down at the total mercy of whatever the world decides to do to you that day.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the profound danger of this cultural conditioning is that we begin to confuse the intensity of our emotional spikes with the depth of a meaningful life.
Oh, that's deep.
We develop this underlying belief that if we aren't wildly, overwhelmingly ecstatic or deeply, tragically devastated, then we aren't really experiencing life.
We think equanimity is boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We mistake peace for boredom. But this ancient text argues the exact opposite. It suggests that this relentless chasing of extremes actually blinds you to true reality.
Okay, but this is exactly where I think the modern listener hits a massive wall of resistance.
It's a natural sticking point.
When you hear a 2,000-year-old text command you to neither rejoice upon attaining what is pleasant nor lament upon obtaining what is unpleasant, it raises huge red flags.
It sounds austere.
It does. Like, wait, is Krishna telling us to become unfeeling sociopaths? If I can't rejoice over the birth of a child, or a massive creative breakthrough, or just a beautiful dinner with my closest friends, what is the point of being alive?
Why even do anything?
Exactly. What is the point of art or music or loving our families if we're supposed to just sit there with a flatlined heart rate, perfectly neutral to everything?
That is the most important pushback you can offer. And it's a hurdle everyone faces when encountering this philosophy for the first time.
So how do we reconcile that?
If we pull back and look at the bigger picture of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is, after all, a dialogue happening on a literal battlefield spoken to a warrior, we see that it is absolutely not a call for passivity, apathy, or robotic indifference.
It's not about being numb.
The commentary explicitly clarifies this crucial distinction. Krishna is not telling Arjuna, or us, to stop enjoying the beauty of life, our creative pursuits, or our loved ones.
Okay, what is he warning against then?
He is issuing a dire warning against attachment to the extremes of those experiences.
I need to understand that distinction deeply. Where is the line between experiencing something beautiful and being attached to it?
Let's look at the specific phrasing used in the text. It calls for a sthira buddhi.
Sthira buddhi.
Now, sthira means steady or stable, but buddhi is critical here. It translates to intellect, or the higher discerning faculty of the mind.
So it's not about the heart being dead.
Exactly. It does not say you must have a deadened heart or even a completely unmoving emotional landscape.
Yeah.
It says your intellect, your core observing self, must remain steady.
Okay.
The difference between enjoying something and being attached to it is the difference between deeply appreciating a breathtaking sunset and trying to put the sun in your pocket so you can own it and force it to stay in the sky forever.
Trying to put the sun in your pocket. Wow.
When you have a steady intellect, this sthira buddhi, you are capable of being fiercely, intensely present for a wonderful moment.
You can actually enjoy it more.
You can enjoy the warmth of a relationship, the thrill of a creative breakthrough, the taste of a great meal. But you enjoy it with the profound underlying knowledge that it is temporary.
Because everything is.
You know it will end, because all phenomena in the material world are temporary.
And attachment is the opposite of that acceptance.
Attachment is the frantic, anxious grasping that happens when your ego demands that the pleasant experience must never end.
Or the devastation when it does.
Or the despair that completely annihilates you when the experience inevitably does end. If your happiness is entirely dependent on the sunset never fading to black, you aren't actually enjoying the sunset.
What are you experiencing then?
You are just experiencing the anxiety of its impending absence.
Wow, okay, that really shifts the ground beneath the text. Experiencing the sunset versus experiencing the anxiety of its impending absence.
It changes everything.
So you are saying that a steady intellect actually allows you to be more in the joy because you aren't distracted by trying to hoard it. And conversely, it allows you to be in the pain of a valley without being utterly destroyed by it.
Precisely. You face a painful moment, a loss, a failure, a heartbreak, without being completely shattered at your core.
Because you know it's temporary, too.
Because you understand that the painful moment, just like the
Yes.
beautiful sunset, is a temporary fluctuation of the material world. It is weather.
Just weather.
The steady intellect allows you to observe the pleasant and the unpleasant as massive weather patterns moving across the sky, while you remain anchored in the realization that you are the sky itself.
You are the sky, not the weather. It's a beautiful metaphor.
It's very grounding.
But again, we run into the reality problem, because it sounds incredibly poetic in a deep dive discussion or a philosophy book, but when your car breaks down on the side of the highway in the freezing rain and you are late for a critical meeting,
It's very hard to remember you're the sky.
it is very, very hard. You feel very much like the freezing rain.
Absolutely.
So how do we actually build this architecture in our minds? How do we construct a sthira buddhi?
This is where we look at the final piece of our source material.
Right, which gives us the practical mechanics for this, focusing on a technique for anchoring the extremes in something we can call the buffer zone.
This is where the genius of the ancient philosophy becomes an incredibly tactile, practical tool for modern life. It moves from theory to biological intervention.
Right. So guidance 1 in this section is to anchor the extremes.
It's a brilliant practice.
The text says, when something difficult or painful occurs, you must actively support yourself by quietly repeating the phrase, "This too will pass."
I've all heard that one.
Yeah. And when something wonderful and joyous happens, you must enjoy it fully, but quietly remind yourself with the exact same phrase, "This too will pass."
Using it for both extremes.
Now, applying that to a bad situation makes total logical sense. Car breaks down in the rain. This too will pass. You remember that a tow truck exists. You will eventually be warm again.
It brings down your heart rate.
It gives you immediate perspective. But applying it to a wonderful moment.
That's where people get tripped up.
I mean, saying, "This too will pass," right in the middle of a perfect anniversary dinner, or right as you're handed a major award. I have to admit, that sounds like a massive buzzkill.
It really does sound like one.
How does telling yourself that your joy is going to end actually enhance the joy? It feels like you are pouring cold water on a fire.
This raises an important question. And it feels counterintuitive because it challenges how we fundamentally relate to pleasure.
We want pleasure to last forever.
We mistakenly assume that acknowledging the end of a joyful moment will diminish its intensity. We think that pretending it will last forever is how we honor the joy.
Right, living in denial.
But let's look at what is actually happening in your brain during a peak experience. When you are in a wonderful moment, but you haven't accepted its temporary nature, a significant portion of your cognitive bandwidth is secretly frantically working on how to secure it.
Oh, that makes sense. You're strategizing.
You are strategizing how to repeat it, or how to prevent it from slipping away.
You're taking a dozen photos to prove it happened. You're thinking about how to caption it on social media.
Exactly. You are physically present at the dinner, but psychologically, a huge part of you is already living in the future, trying to manage the eventual loss of the moment.
You're trying to put the sun in your pocket again.
By explicitly pausing and acknowledging "this too will pass," you paradoxically remove the anxiety of clinging.
Because you've already accepted the worst part.
You are sending a massive signal to your nervous system, telling your brain, we don't need to capture this. We don't need to strategize how to make this last forever. It is meant to end, and that is exactly how it should be.
Wait, so by accepting the end of the joy, you are essentially telling your brain to call off the search party for more.
That is exactly it. You call off the search party, and that acceptance frees up all of that hijacked cognitive and emotional bandwidth.
It gives it back to you.
It allows you to pour 100% of your consciousness into the present moment. It doesn't kill the buzz, it removes the static.
It removes the static.
It allows the joy to be pure, untainted by the subliminal fear of loss. Recognizing the fleeting nature of a beautiful moment forces an intense, luminous presence that clinging can never achieve.
That completely flips my understanding of it. You aren't mourning the end of the moment before it's even over. You are finally truly allowed to exist inside of it.
You finally arrive.
Okay, so that is how we cognitively anchor the extremes. But there is a second piece of guidance here, and this is perhaps the most tactical, mechanically specific instruction in the whole text.
The buffer zone.
Guidance 2 is create a buffer zone. The source says, when you receive bad news or face a sudden inconvenience or feel a surge of anger, do not react in the first 5 seconds.
Sounds so sick.
Just take a breath. It argues that this small, seemingly insignificant physical space between the event and your reaction is the literal birthplace of the steady intellect.
It's a profoundly powerful space.
It's the fortress that prevents the temporary external world from dictating your permanent internal state. I love this concept so much. It's like installing a spam filter for your soul.
A spam filter for the soul is brilliant because we have to look at the biology of what is happening in those first 5 seconds.
What actually occurs in your brain when an irritating or frightening event happens?
Complete chaos.
The 50 browser tabs open up, the amygdala sounds the alarm, the cortisol floods the system, the yo-yo drops.
Yes, your amygdala, the primitive survival center, completely hijacks the system. And the crucial thing to understand is that the amygdala does not operate on logic or truth.
What does it operate on?
It operates on pattern recognition and survival reflexes. Your immediate instinct in those first few seconds is almost entirely conditioned by past traumas, ingrained biases, cultural conditioning, and just pure survival panic.
So it's not even really you making a choice.
If you react, if you send the email, if you snap at your partner, if you yell at the driver within that 5-second window, you are not acting from a place of equanimity.
You're not acting out of free will at all.
You are acting out of pure, unadulterated biological reactivity.
Yeah.
You are allowing the external world to write code directly into your nervous system.
It's like you're just a reflex hammer, and the world just tapped your knee, and you are kicking out blindly. You think you are defending yourself, but you are just twitching.
Twitching is the perfect word. The instruction to simply take a breath and wait 5 seconds is arguably the most difficult yet most universally rewarding practice a human being can adopt.
Why is it so biologically important?
Because the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, long-term planning, and equanimity, is physically slower than the amygdala.
Oh, really?
Yes. In that 5 seconds, you are literally giving the electrical signals time to reach the higher reasoning centers of your brain. You are giving your prefrontal cortex time to catch up, come online, and assess the situation impartially.
So the sthira buddhi, the steady intellect, literally lives in that 5-second gap.
It is born in the gap between stimulus and response.
Wow.
When you force that pause, you are doing something incredibly powerful. You are reclaiming your sovereignty.
Reclaiming your sovereignty. I
Yeah.
love that.
You are saying, an event has happened in the physical world. It is unpleasant, but I will choose my response rather than allowing the event to dictate my reaction.
You're taking a pair of scissors and severing the string of the emotional yo-yo?
The world might pull down forcefully, but your internal state doesn't have to follow.
It is amazing how something so small, 5 seconds of breathing, literally just oxygenating the blood, can be the entire difference between being a victim of your circumstances and being, as the first verse said, established in the supreme.
It all connects back.
It all comes back to that. It is the practical daily application of being flawless and impartial. For those 5 seconds, you are acting like the universe. You are just observing the reality of the situation without judging it.
And if you practice this relentlessly, if you make the 5-second buffer a non-negotiable rule of your life, something remarkable happens to your energy level.
To stop leaking.
You stop leaking. The heavy, bone-deep exhaustion we spoke about at the very beginning of this conversation,
That 8 p.m. fatigue.
that fatigue from constantly litigating the world, from the cortisol spikes and the dopamine crashes, it begins to evaporate.
Because the browser tabs are closed.
You realize that you actually have a massive reservoir of energy, but it was previously being squandered on fighting the impartial nature of reality.
Fighting the rain.
Exactly. When you establish that buffer zone, you build an impenetrable wall around your peace. You protect your permanent internal state from the temporary chaos of the external world.
You become an anchor in the storm rather than a leaf blown violently about by it.
Exactly.
So to bring this all together for you listening right now, we started by looking at that very specific heavy exhaustion you feel when you collapse on the couch at 8 p.m.
And we redid the math.
And what these verses from the Bhagavadgita and the incredible commentary around them have showed us is that our math was completely wrong.
True victory in this life isn't about perfectly arranging the external world so that you never face an inconvenience.
It's not about micromanaging your partner or ensuring your travel plans are flawless or hoarding every beautiful moment so it never ends.
True victory, Gita Sargo, is conquering the internal exhaustion of judgment.
It's recognizing that the constant, frantic oscillation of those mental browser tabs, swinging between this is a win and this is a loss, is what is draining your battery dry.
The solution is to step completely off the judgment pendulum.
We explored the neurobiology of observing without immediate judgment. Learning to sit with the neutral, boring facts of a situation, like a flight delay, without letting the amygdala turn it into a tragedy.
Stripping away the narrative.
We role-played what it actually means to level the playing field, realizing that true respect means importing the patience we give to absolute strangers into the intimate moments with our own families, elevating the baseline to protect the love.
Preserving that intimacy.
We saw the intense danger of the cultural conditioning that turns us into emotional yo-yos, constantly chasing dopamine highs and crashing into cortisol lows.
The yo-yo effect.
And crucially, we learned how to anchor those extremes with the profound grounding truth. This too will pass. By remembering that, we realize we don't kill our joy. We actually turn off the static of anxiety that prevents us from fully immersing ourselves in the beauty of the present.
We call off the search party.
And finally, we found the biological key to building that steady intellect, the 5-second buffer zone, giving your higher mind the time to catch up so you can act with sovereignty rather than just twitching like a reflex hammer.
Reclaiming your free will.
So Knowing all of this, what does this actually mean for you today? It means you have a tangible choice in how you spend your psychological energy from this moment forward.
You do. And looking at all of this synthesis leads to a very provocative thought, something that naturally emerges from these ancient teachings if we are brave enough to take them to their absolute logical conclusion.
I love a provocative thought. Where does this take us?
We've talked extensively about how the 5-second buffer protects your energy and builds a steady intellect. But consider the implication this profound equanimity has on our actual relationship with time itself.
Time, how so?
Well, you look at our modern experience of time,
Mm.
it's almost entirely characterized by rushing or fleeing.
Oh, constantly.
We are either rushing aggressively toward the next anticipated emotional high, the weekend, the vacation, the promotion, or we are frantically fleeing from the next potential low. The deadline, the difficult conversation, the aging process.
We're never just here.
Time feels incredibly scarce, relentlessly fast, and constantly slipping through our fingers because our minds are never actually situated in the present moment. They are always positioned in a projected future, trying to manage outcomes.
Trying to arrange the universe.
But what happens if you truly deeply master this buffer zone? If you sever the string of the yo-yo entirely and your internal state becomes permanent, steady, and wholly independent of the external world's chaos.
That's the dream.
If you are no longer racing toward the next dopamine hit, and you are no longer running in terror from the next frustration, how would that completely reshape your perception of time?
That is a wild question.
Without the frantic, high-speed oscillation of judgment, does time itself begin to slow down in that vast space of equanimity?
Do we finally stop fast-forwarding?
Do we, perhaps for the very first time in our adult lives, actually get to experience the sheer, unhurried, majestic volume of our own existence?
That is a staggering thought to leave on. If we stop trying to fast-forward through the bad parts and stop trying to freeze the good parts, we actually just get to live the whole thing.
Exactly. The panic disappears. The urgency disappears.
The exhaustion disappears.
It really does.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We covered ancient philosophy, the invisible neurobiology of modern exhaustion, and the tactical tools you need to change how you interact with the fabric of reality.
It's been a great conversation.
We highly encourage you to test this out tomorrow. Make it a tangible experiment. When you sit down with your morning coffee, or the very first time something minor goes wrong, a spilled drop, a frustrating email, a sigh from across the kitchen, try to implement that 5-second rule.
You give it 5 seconds.
Just take a breath, let the amygdala fire, but don't act on it. Don't label it. Just observe the data. See if you can't save a little bit of that metabolic energy for yourself. Because if you do, when you sit down on the couch tomorrow night at 8 p.m., you might just find that you feel a little bit lighter.
Absolutely.
Until next time.